Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And my name is SOFIEA YAHAYA, and my friend here is ADAWIYATUL MUNIRAH ABDUL MUTTALIB. And today we're going to do a presentation on the global issues in the capital market. Next. So in this presentation, we are going to talk about the introduction, the problem statement, the objectives, point of views, recommendation, and conclusion. So I'll pass it on to ADAWIYATUL.
Okay, so the journal that we choose is The Rise of Domestic Capital Markets for Corporate Financing, Lessons from East Asia, written by Facundo Abraham, Juan J. Cortina, and Sergio Schmuckler. Okay, next. So the introduction for this journal. The journal focuses on East Asian domestic bond market, which increases in 1990s and 2000s bond market financing. And the journal highlight two economic events, which are the global financial crisis and the Asian financial crisis. In this journal, they observe 10 largest economies in East Asia, which are China, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, Thailand, and Vietnam. So the journal includes a detailed explanation on data collection, which are the sample of economics, transaction level data, firm size measure, and firm level data. The journal also study the cost of and issuance of and role of investors, which explain the relationship between supply of financing, the expansion of domestic bond issuance. So the journal also include the firm performance and use of fund, which observe the responses from various firms which issued domestic East Asian bonds to view the firm's demand. And the conclusion from this journal is, despite being a big contributor to the East Asian corporate market rise in 1990s, the domestic market has overthrown the role of international bond market to being a bigger contributor starting from 2008 after the Asian financial crisis. So next.
So the problem statement is that the main purpose of the study is to explore the role of the domestic markets by comparing the international and domestic bond issuance from East Asian firms. Next. So the objectives to the study, it was carried out on the body of knowledge on the growth of corporate debt in emerging nations following the global financial crisis. And there are three. First off is to evaluate domestic versus international bond issuance activity in East Asia, revealing the significant shift in the market composition since the early 1990s. Second is to focus on the changes in domestic debt financing in the early 2000s, and it also focused on the trends following the Great Recession and the post of Great Financial Crisis period. And thirdly is to examine whether the supply or demand variables contribution, the increase in the East Asian domestic bond financing since 2008. So I'll pass it on to ADAWIYATUL.
Okay, so for the first point of view, the data collection of this journal is very detailed and could be a good example for future researchers. So for their sample of economics, the writers considered a possibility of bond issuance activity could have a different growth rate. So they separate the countries into three groups, which advanced East Asia without China into four countries, which are Hong Kong, Korea, Singapore, and Taiwan. And the second group is developing East Asia with Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines, Vietnam, and Thailand. So this is done because the China's capital is very big and it overshadows other East Asian countries. Next.
So the second point of view is that we believe that the supply side of the finance was a driving force behind the observed acceleration in the East Asian enterprise domestic bond issuance. And this evidence can be supported in the article that stated the foreign investors were the primary buyers of the securities issued in the international markets, whereas the domestic investors were the primary buyers of the security produced in the domestic markets in East Asia. Next point of view is that we believe that in evaluating the reaction of the different corporations, which as the domestic bond market in the East Asian have a limited access to financing market and financially constrained compared to the larger companies. And the findings also demonstrated that the cash holdings are important use of the fund bond issuance, where the East Asia saved higher shares of bond in the cash between 2008 and 2016, when cash accumulation from bond proceeds was often near to zero. And the only year between 2001 and 2007 with higher levels of cash accumulation per bond issuance was in 2007, immediately before the Great Recession. I pass it on to Adawiyatul.
Okay, so overall, we are very satisfied with the journal, but this is a point that may have been overlooked but can be included for future researchers. So we suggested future research to add more specific study on domestic income situation, because we believe that the income of domestic investors could be another reason behind the expansion of any bond market. Okay, as for the conclusion, this journal concluded that despite the important role of international bonds, bond market played in the East Asian corporate financing boom in the 1990s, the new millennium has seen a change in role after domestic market take over the bond in 2000s. This change is due to growth of domestic bond market, which is moving faster than international bond market. And secondly, is due to the fiscal discipline in East Asian government, which increases the financing for corporate sector since the global financial crisis due to their strength. Okay, I guess that is all from us.
Thank you.